right. So Mark, even if we had all of those things, there is still a bridge between the vets and the community, right? And you've worked with farmers, the Maasai community in Tanzania, you're working with poultry farmers in Gatundu. What has been your experience about how small-scale farmers perceive veterinary surgeons and paraprofessionals? Do they yearn for their services? Are they clamoring for them? And if not, why? And if yes, what made them do that? Would you tell us about that?
Sure, yeah. So I am considered a medical anthropologist, and just a quick background, that I'm the Regional Social Science Coordinator for AMR at the FAO. And as was mentioned, I'm working on a project right now where we're looking at AMR primarily in poultry systems in 5 countries, including Kenya. And what we do, or what I do, what we do is we go into farms and we have long discussions with farmers about their perspectives on veterinary services and also their knowledge, attitudes, and practices when it comes to antimicrobial resistance and antimicrobial use. And so some results from this study, we found that many farmers, it was brought up that veterinarians are sometimes known as Daktari wa Ng'ombe, right? So we work in poultry systems. And one of the first things we discovered why some farmers weren't going to the vets is they thought that vets were for Ng'ombe. And they had poultry, so why would I go to a doctor who's for cows? Right? And so part of that perception is a reason that farmers themselves aren't going out to seek veterinary services. And we can see this in the data, in the responses from farmers. So it wasn't only here in Kenya, but we found that when we ask farmers, what's the first step you take when your animals become sick or you believe your animals are sick, about 25%, and this is across all those countries, said that they went to a veterinarian first. A majority went to their friends and family first to ask them their advice about what they should do with their sick animals. After that, if their friends and family didn't know, they went to the agrovet. So they would go to the agrovet and ask the agrovet, what should I do with my animals? So there is a sense of that the perceptions of what veterinarians do, of course, impacts health-seeking behavior in the veterinary sector. And we also know that these perceptions have to be changed because we found that the farmers who were going and seeking out advice from veterinarians, they actually had better practices when it came to antimicrobial use. So they were more likely to use the entire dose. They were more go through the appropriate treatment, They were more likely to observe withdrawal periods for drugs. And again, we're talking about residues and food safety. So I think there's a lot that we can take from an anthropological perspective in understanding what the farmers know and using that to build communication campaigns or intervention campaigns in order for them to seek out veterinarians more, while at the same time applying some top-down pressure to get more resources, as Dr. Thomas was talking about.
Oh, thank you. And Dr. Yamo, Dr. Thomas works on poultry, which I read in your bio you have been following chicken for the last 25 years in Equity Bank and everywhere. So, and we have had this conversation with you before, and I've seen you in the media complaining about how farmers treat their animals, particularly poultry, how they keep them. So would you tell us how the lack of appreciation for vets impacts how farmers treat their chicken and any other animal that is a food animal, and how vets can correct that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Verah.
Okay.
I think from my perspective, I tend to agree with Mark that the biggest challenge we've had is we have all become Daktaris wa Ng'ombe. And so when I go to the poultry industry and we are trying to look for vets to do some of this work, we can count them on one hand, the vets that are in the poultry industry. And I think part of the challenge is because when we were in second year or third year for the current class, there's like a subject that was called animal production, that a good chunk of us didn't feel that was the right subject to do. In fact, when you talk about veterinary services, a lot of us don't consider ourselves to be production people. We consider ourselves to be people who inject and treat. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the biggest challenge because systems are changing. The only guy who understands the whole value chain, ideally, is a vet because you can do production, you can do public health, you can do treatment, you can do management. But vets have then locked themselves into this thing called treatment, which is a small component of the whole veterinary medicine thing. And so I think that's where we need to start from. We need to take a step back as a profession and say, what's our role in animal production? What do we need to do in terms of production systems? How do we then engage and communicate with the farmer? And beyond the farmer, how do we then engage and communicate with the consumer? Because I think it's a consumer-driven. When I joined the industry, the poultry industry 20 or odd years ago, it was we produced and the consumer ate what we put out there as chickens. Nowadays we are having these consumers that are talking about AMR, are talking about fitness, are talking about fast growth, are talking about all manner of things. And unless you engage them and expound to them what needs to happen, then you end up becoming progressively irrelevant, so to speak. The second thing that we need to be looking at as vets is then how do we then move with the trends that are happening? What do we know about AMR? And how does AMR then fit into the production system and the food safety system? And how do we then connect that to food security, so to speak? I think that's, again, a discussion that as vets we've become so technical that we are not able to address the day-to-day, so to speak, have the day-to-day discussions. So we need to go back and start looking at that thing. But for me, the most important thing, so that I just conclude, is in all these things, where is animal welfare? Because everything that a vet does from first-year anatomy to final-year medicine is about animal welfare. It's about feeding the animal. It's about ensuring the animal has a comfortable environment. It's about ensuring the animal does not get disease or disease situations. It's about ensuring that the animal performs optimally. All those things are animal welfare issues. And again, vets have not considered themselves to be animal welfare activists or proponents for that matter. And so we end up in a situation where we then address certain aspects of the whole value chain or certain aspects of the welfare of the animal without looking at the holistic approach to animals. And just as a challenge, when I was in third and fourth year, there's a big thing called flock management of herd health. Vets have ceased being herd health experts. We sit somewhere and we wait for somebody to call us, and then we go and treat. And in most of the situations, and the vets are here, they can tell their council chairman if he's wrong. In most of the situations, we don't even see the animal. So the farmer calls, and we quickly dispense and advice without seeing the animal, without taking cognizance of the environment. And that's part of the reason why we are slowly then becoming irrelevant, and we keep talking about we are fighting quacks, which is part of the problem in the food safety systems, but we have created those quacks ourselves.
Ooh.
Thank you.
Do you guys have stones? You should throw stones to Yamo. Should throw stones to Yamo. Oh, uko na helmet? I don't see it. So, Dr. Maritim, what Dr. Yamo, we're just going to have one more round of questions, and then you can ask your whatever you had or contributions. Dr. Yamo mentioned something to do with curriculum, and I would like to add there like market forces. I know vets were in the 90s. I think I was in kindergarten. They stopped hiring you guys, right? So don't you think that not being animal safety in the whole thing about food safety has got something to do with, first of all, the curriculum in the university, and then second, the market forces, like vets have to put food on the table now that they're not being hired? Like, how are you going to make sure that vets can have, practice that is guided by their ethical and educational qualifications, as opposed to, I need to put food on the table?
That's interesting. But although I'm not a lecturer, but
we work for the DVS, and
we know what is going on.
Yeah.
And I just want to say that veterinary profession currently is not at the woods. It is far much better than the other courses we left in Kabete. When we were in Kabete, I think the agriculture class was bigger than ours. But I think veterinary class is now bigger than the agriculture. So that tells you that veterinary is relevant to the market more than the others now.
Are the vets made to be aware that they're that relevant?
So I think that one is an issue we need to encourage our vets, that they are really, really relevant, and they are the curriculum we are doing, as my colleague from anthropology, Loucif, seems to know better, that we are veterinarians of cows. Because even at home, when a donkey is sick, I don't think anybody thinks you can treat it. But the things are changing, and we need to be, the university needs to grab the system and capture the mood of what is happening in terms of curriculum deployment, of training our students. A case in point is that for us who work for government, it is different to learn veterinary surgeon in terms of treatment and institute official controls, whereby you are supposed to ensure, do certification of meat inspection, do certification of animal movement, and all those. Because you need to go back to the tool, and I think maybe this is a challenge the university need to think. When we were in fourth year leaving the college, we were being taught economics, but it was not enough. It was not enough to equip these people to go outside there to do what actually, in the event they are employed by government. And in this country, I also wish to tell you, DVS is not public service. DVS is entire veterinary service, including these veterinarians who are in research, these veterinarians who are doing private work, these veterinarians who are in all these places, teaching and all those. So that it is intertwined, whereby the DVS cannot perform if research in veterinary services is not working, if teaching is not working. That is not a complete veterinary service. Outside there, especially in Europe, in the event, let's say now a case which has presented itself like coronavirus, or an event of a disease which is near home to you like FMD, you stop being a private veterinarian and now become an official veterinarian, whereby you are instituting and actually enforcing quarantine. So you remove your kofia of a private vet and become an official vet, and you can actually take somebody to court. That is one thing you don't know, and that is what we are supposed to emphasize, that the system has to work like that, where veterinarians learn. If there is any gap in terms of training, we need to retool them on how to institute official control. How many of you understand quarantine? It's a very important issue when we are dispensing veterinary services. It is very important to know what it entails to inspect meat. It is not only what we did in public health, it's more than that. After inspecting, so what? So there are quite a number of issues which we really need people to. These researchers who are doing a lot of work in microbiology, doing a lot of work in residue, it reads into the system, whereby DVS is supposed to rely on data. Unfortunately for us, not only in Kenya here, is that we don't have data. Or we have data, but we don't use the data. There are silos in terms of people researching, and they don't know where to take the research, or the uptake of research is not there. So we really need to go back. This is the place to throw and tap each other's potentials, and I think the system of veterinary services will take. Because if you ask the veterinarian here, and we have done that once in a while, when you ask a veterinarian his role in honey, it is alien to him, but it is his work to certify honey for safety. Why? Honey picks, residues of drugs are found in honey, residues of pesticides are found in honey. So you cannot exonerate yourself from that role. Agrovets, there are drugs which are banned, but if you sample today honey, you will realize that there is some drugs which were banned long time ago, which are still being used, and probably being used in, when you think, remote areas. Where are they coming from? It is the vets who owns agrovets or this distributing value chain. So it is a wake-up call that it is all of us who are actually supposed to do something and do it right. Do something and do it right. So I think our animal welfare issues, Yamo is passionate about it. It has got so many contributions to food safety in terms of the chemicals which enter us into food because of operation into the issues of animal welfare, transportation. You see, most of us, if you are to ask, we normally go to get meat, which is not actually meat. We are eating muscles. You see somebody is taking meat when it is still having even the rigor mortis process is not yet there, but not in those other places where people have gone advanced. Because meat is supposed to take some time before it becomes actually you go eat it. So there are so many other issues we need to learn, and I don't think we can explain all this. Again, I think veterinary is the right time for us to think together, retool together, and reconsider our training issues. The current mode of approach is risk-based approach. Even when we are formulating policies in counties and all those, the laws we have are not responding to the current emerging issues. So we really need to combine science, to combine our policy making by grounding it with research, so that when we do our work, it's more effective, resource sensitive, because we cannot do everything. I remember yesterday a plane landed from China, and I think it was a big scare. And the only thing the people were doing was to circulate the photographs of the plane landing. But what really is the issue if it happens? So I think it is a veterinarian, you have a big role, a very big role in terms of addressing the issues of One Health, the issues of climate change. You have a role in it because animals have a very big role on the climate change. You have a big role in terms of advocating food safety. You are the best place to advocate food safety issues and food security in this country. If you read the topography or what happens in this country, 80% is pastoral issues, and pastoral means animals. So you realize you are actually the drivers. It's only that you are not putting your acts together. And I think the policy of government now is supporting your cause in terms of really coming out and doing the right things. I think as we go forward, DVS place is open, and I think he's trying. My colleague here I was telling her, you are more government than me. Because he works in the county, and she knows the challenges we have in terms of numbers. But I think we have number problems because probably most of us are in Nairobi, where most of our services may not be needed. But outside there is a lot of work. which she has actually said. And county government, I think we need to see it and embrace it so that they take up this issue. Because resources have come to the county, but they have not used the resources for the right to support veterinary work. I think that is something which needs to be really pushed so that the counties take it up. I think I have to stop there.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Maritim. I'm being told we are less than 7 minutes. I wanted to go for another round of questions, but I know you could be having stuff you want to ask. So just raise your hand, and then the microphone will be brought. Oh, Lord, you guys are going to run more time. Ooh. Okay.
All right. I have a question for Dr. Maritim. You've sort of talked about the issue with the counties, and you've talked about the problem with the numbers. Sorry. So we already know the role that veterinarians and the veterinary paraprofessionals play, especially in adequate implementation of meat hygiene regulations. And now we know it was a little bit easier to deploy human resource when we had a centralized system of governance. But now, what's the plan on how to engage with the counties? Because now the decisions on hiring and, this addressing the numbers issues now lies with the counties who determine the budgets and what goes where. What's a plan in how we're going to engage with the counties in that regard? And then for Dr. Yamo, you've talked about how veterinarians have resorted to being, responding to clinical incidences. Do we have the critical mass from farmers who demand for hard health? Because I might want to engage a farmer from the preventative side, but I don't know of that many farmers who will not call a veterinary doctor unless they have to, because they have the thought of, why should I spend money if I don't have a problem? So I feel like veterinarians resorting to be, clinical case responders is not a case, it's not by choice, it's just, I feel like we need to do quite a bit of sensitization to farmers to,
Okay, so we'll take 2 more other questions and then the answer. I would like us to be very brief, say your name, where you work, and ask the questions right away. And I would also say the panelists not to storytell. All right, so let's go.
Thank you very much. My name is George Njoroge, working here at ILRI. I work with researchers to bring development to scale. I'm not a researcher. I work in the interface between research and development. I want to say that support Dr. Yamo, whatever happened, on our attitude as veterinarians. At one time, because I've been development of my working years since I graduated, and I once talked to a big program in the Ministry of Livestock, to the coordinator, and asked him, because when I'm in the field, vets tell me they were not involved in a program that was called NALEP, a huge program by the Swedish, and went on, I think, for 10. When I asked the coordinator, he told me that when you ask a vet what they are doing for the program, the only thing you get is a vaccination program. Nothing else. You ask him to explain, and they'll tell you that's what they do. And the program has so many other things a veterinarian can do, but that does not come out. I want to vaccinate animals. They don't even bother to check what is the program areas of interventions. Only what they give is a vaccination program. It was very sad. We have many things we can do. The second thing I want to say is that...
I hope you're winding up, sir.
Yes. You know that it's only in the veterinarians now, and I stand to be corrected, you have so many fields to go to. We even have vets in electronic industry, and they are thriving there. We have vets in research. One of my classmates, Lumbe Ndungu, is a leading global research in HIV/AIDS. And so many other development. We have had vets excelling in development. And so on and so forth. This attitude that there is no job with the DVS, I'm done. Please, let's not have it. Just open up your mind, and you are trained to be a thinker and an interventionist. And you can fit anywhere and serve humanity, because that's what a vet should be. And lastly, I think there is need, Dr. Maritim.
1 minute, sir.
My program at ILRI has been supporting the DVS to review legislation that support veterinary practice in Kenya. We realized that there were 10 laws, some of them over 100 years, that were supporting veterinary practice in the country. And now we are supporting the DVS to collapse that into 3 legislation, from 10 to 3. And what we have done, we have influenced the review to put in more emphasis on crowding private sector. Because there is no sector that grows globally without high participation of the private sector. And therefore, we look forward to really get people getting those opportunities. Once this legislation is done, we have resources to support the private sector actors to be able to bring them together and discuss the opportunities created by this legislative review. And we believe that we are going to have vets in Moyale, in Okeyo, because the policy and legislative environment will be able to address some of those issues that she was raising. It's only when you have the right policy, enabling legislation, that we can be able to change the sector. And of key is private sector participation.
Sir, thank you. So do you want to answer the questions quickly? No, just one more, and then we answer. Please, please, please. Now I'm going to be the rude journalist that I am. I'll come grab the microphone, isn't it? And I'm also from Homa Bay, so I can really grab that microphone, all right?
My name is Dr. Joyce Gakombe. I'm in the private sector. I run a veterinary clinic in Lavington. I see pets. And maybe you're wondering why I'm here about food safety. Dr. Maritim, we are the whistleblowers on aflatoxin. Before you see aflatoxin in people, we have lost a couple of dogs. We want an avenue at the DVS's office where we can flag this. The way I can flag rabies, that I will call, there is a protocol laid out for rabies, so that there is a quick response that there is rabies wherever I am practicing. We are requesting, can we have the same for aflatoxin? Because it pains us when I've lost a couple of dogs, then I'm waiting for 2 months later to see Nation writing, so many people are dying of aflatoxin, where there could have been a response because there was a vet on the ground.
Thank you very much. So let's start with Dr. Maritim. A round one, really, really fast. Her question and her concern, his concern, and then Dr. Yamo. Then do we do one more round of questions?
Yeah.
It was a gentleman there, ooh, Lord. Okay, let's go.
I'm John Mode from the University of Nairobi. DVS, I think you must realize that the curricula taught in the university vet school now is fairly responsive to what is happening. We are teaching apiculture, we are teaching almost about all the species, not only the cow. But my issue here is maybe a comment. The media have a role to play in this Daktari wa Ng'ombe syndrome. Because like yesterday when they were trying to show some of the services that were removed from Sonko, when he passed over his service, the functions to the national government, one of the media houses kept on repeating is animal control, as if animal control is just such a useless, just try to show that's one of them that was left with Sonko. So what we are saying is that the emphasis we are talking about now is one, health, and that's what we want the media to also emphasize on, so that if animals are sick, and with these zoonotic diseases especially, human beings are going to be sick. So don't only get excited when there is an outbreak of human disease, but you must be able to see the connection between food safety, animal health, and human health in that house of one health. That is the approach. Please help us to remove this tag and the syndrome of Daktari wa Ng'ombe.
All right. So let's go with the answers, and then we'll ask another round of questions, all right? Dr. Maritim?
Yeah, I think there were not many questions as such. For my sister down there, I think the young lady talking about the numbers in the counties. It is true there is that imbalance in terms of numbers, but as I'm telling you, on meat inspection, I think counties have recruited meat inspectors for one reason, because of revenue, not food safety. It's because of revenue. So what we only need now to ride on is that interest they have in revenue, and now link with food safety. That these people is not only tax collectors, but they are actually the people who are protecting consumers in terms of what they consume, and not only on meat, but many other aspects. Because that meat inspector can also do other things and assist us in even sampling milk, sampling the alpha-toxin issues our sister is saying. So it is true that there is challenge, and we have programs now that we are reaching out to counties to really actually convince them that food safety is an issue. And it is good that the consumers are so much aware that they are dying because of food they eat. And who are the agriculture is developed. So the hit is on them. And I'm very sure they will soon respond to the call of actually enhancing numbers, be it veterinarians or even agriculture. My friend Wahome, thank you. Wamwere, that is, he was my roommate in the DBS, and he left me to continue the work. Okay. Thank you for the work, and I think the review of legislation is moving pretty fast. Thank you to Wamwere. And I think, as I've just talked before, on the issues of risk-based approach, our legislation should be responsive to that. When I come to my sister Okombe, it is very true that alpha-toxin issues, even from our background in terms of the indicators, are usually pets. And I think the missing link is the data. Data and how we report or packaging the information. Because if we package the information that actually that is true, and with foolproof diagnosis, confirmed diagnosis, I'm very sure it will be easy for policymakers to support animal health in terms of screening and testing for alpha toxins, more so on feed or food which are fed to these pets, and even what we eat. If you sample any of these ungas in place, none of them will pass the alpha toxin test, mostly. But only the issue is the limit. So we are not very safe, even as human beings, but we pity. It is very important we do that campaign and bring that sensitization and bring the information out, scientific information. You know, scientists don't lie. The only problem is our reporting system is where there could be a challenge, and even packaging the information. Most of the time we give information to even the scientific expert, FAO, WHO. Then they throw away our information because we have not been trained through on how to collect scientific data. So it may not be admissible at certain level. So it is a challenge to our colleagues in the university, in the research institutions, and I really like what Professor Mbaria and colleagues were doing by sampling the water in Nairobi and the environs. And actually it was a very big landmark whereby even the governor of Machakos pick it up and say he's going to take it. So it is small efforts we do which can change this country. So, lastly, I really like and thank my teacher, Dr. Mude, on the curriculum which has actually undergone a lot of review, and now it is trying to be responsive, but still, I can still go back to aquaculture and apiculture, which I think maybe the numbers are still few. or they have not taken up their positions well, because it is still with livestock production, and livestock production only thinks in terms of colonies and all those, but the safety part of it is what is not coming out very clearly. So that one, I think we are going to, together, we are going to have actually a lot of impact. And it is good now everybody is responsive. Even our friend here, I've realized in veterinary we need anthropologists to sell our idea, because the way we are growing is very different from how it is. You can see the link between the people and the medicine. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Dr. Yamo, you had a question?
I think George answered part of the question, that it's an attitude problem, but the second bit of it is that you need to create space for yourself. A lot of us go to, even when you are called, you remember what I said, even when you are called for the case, you don't make the effort to go to see that farmer, and you do a telephone exchange. You have no contact with that farmer. You cannot even follow up. A certain research done by anthropologists many years ago when I was a bit younger said that the average vet, when they get onto the farm, doesn't even greet the farmer. The first question they ask is, actually it was 65% of the vets, is where is the animal? So how are you going to create that connection to have time with the farmer to make yourself relevant? Yeah? Many years after I left the organization I worked for, Patricia can remember where we worked together as sister companies. I still get called by Kenchik farmers because they still remember the connections that we had. Most of us vets don't even have a connection with the farmer. So how are you going to do herd health or flock health if you can't even create that rapport? And that's the attitude that I think my good friend Wamwere was talking about. We need to change our processes and create our relevance. When I am called, it's not a question of the money. It's a question of, is it an opportunity for me to go and sell the profession? Can I go and say, beyond looking at the animal, can I look at the environment and say maybe the problem is not the animal, it's the environment that the animal is in? Is it the feeding? But most of us just go, it's what? Temperature, and give a shot. You don't even know what the animal ate last night. And then most interestingly, in one of the recent research is that the reason why we are called Daktari wa Ng'ombe is because we go and see the cow, we forget that there is a dog in the compound that also might need to be engaged. We forget that there is another series of a duck or a chicken or something that also needs to be looked at. I think we need to start looking at things holistically. The cow is not sitting in isolation. It has an owner, it has an environment that it's interacting with, it has other animals that it's working around, and that's where herd health then becomes important. But until we change our thought processes, we will be daktaris for ng'ombe for a very long time.
Okay. All right.
Just a quick one, sorry. I want to help Verah a little bit. Can we just shorten our questions, please? Because we are really running out of time, and we are trying to make sure we get as many of your questions as possible. And the same goes for the panelists. Let's shorten our answers.
Okay, so another round, one there.
Thank you for this chance. My name is Dr. Paul Kangede. I'm working with the Standard Media Group. I really want to, mine is a comment, short one though. I want to thank the veterinarians who we have been engaging, Dr. Yamo and Dr. Kevin. Sorry, we've been calling them to really articulate matters the correct way, because many people are masquerading as experts, but whatever information they are giving, they are not authorities, and whatever information they are giving, even the farmers, it is not even helpful to them. So with the engagement with the Standard Media Group, we are trying to give relevant information to farmers so that they can improve how they are producing, minimize their cost of production, prevent disease occurrences, and by so doing, make farming attractive, lucrative, and so doing we are going to be food secure, and we are going to have enough. Just comment on Dr. Joyce, what she said about campaigning. Then if these aflatoxin cases in dogs are there, we are always handy. You can get in touch, and then we can make a lot of noise through the media so that it can reach everybody who is supposed to do something. And from that, I know the profession will rise higher and higher for all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Mine goes to Maritim. Maritim, now that you actually appreciate that the county government, sometimes they are not well capacitated. and they might be lagging behind in employing the veterinarians, rather they employ the clerks to collect the revenue. Now, I come to a place where dogs are very many and they are very dear to us. At this county number, is it 47? So, where Joyce is working and I'm also working there, but me, I'm in the government. Now, can you tell us, after banning the striking and the people are being beaten day in, day out, what is the other procedure that you want us to do to control rabies? Thank you.
My name is Dr. Oiro Kamundia from Masai Mara University. I'm an aquatic veterinarian, so mimi sing Dr. Wangombe. Now, this one goes to Dr. Maritim, because I feel our biggest problem is that we've dealt with a blind spot called cattle and missed the big picture. We have wildlife, we have reptiles, we have edible insects, and yet, if you go to the DVS office, I think you shifted the blame to the university, which Dr. Mude was kind of refuting, and I agree with him. I wish we had a division on other animals, apart from, because I think there's a very big bias as to cattle. I was in the service, I left. There's fish, there are other animals, there are bees. Why can't we have several divisions dealing with specific animals, such that when somebody wakes up in the morning, he knows I'm dealing with bees and bees alone. Otherwise, other species will get lost somewhere. Last question. As far as veterinary services are concerned, I believe the biggest component and enabler is law enforcement. In Kenya, everybody breaks the law, one or another. We may enforce laws in Kenya, for example, the drugs coming in, but we have Somalia, Uganda, Tanzania, they're porous borders. It becomes very hard to control anything, whether it's MR, whether it's public health, meat, we all have porous. How do you think the government can enhance? Because no matter what we do, as long as you have weak laws, or rather lack of enforcement, that remains a mirage. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm PK Towet from the University of Nairobi, Faculty of Veterinary Medicine. Mine is more of a comment than a question. And I want to tell these members that veterinary profession is a noble profession, highly respected. And it is because of what we do. So of late, we have been having some complaints here and there about the vets in the field not doing what is required. However, we have started the process of inviting guest visitors to come and talk to our students right from first year to the final year, so that they get to know what is happening in the field. The other thing that is also happening is that we have members of the Kenya Veterinary Board who also come in sometimes to teach the students or to train the students on ethics of veterinary medicine. And that is happening, and I hope very soon we are going to have very good vets in the field. The last one is what has already been said about the lack of implementation of some of the laws or policies, where you find when it comes to vaccination of animals, it is done in one particular corner, and then in the other particular corner there's nothing going on. So you find that you cannot control those diseases, and that is what is happening in the field. So it is the role of the DVS to make sure that when we have vaccination, we do it totally in the identified place. Thank you very much.
We just have one more here, and then I can see Dr. Maritim, you're under Siege. I'm so sorry.
Thank you. My name is Geshohi. I'm a veterinarian from Lamu. Ule unasikia kwa Al-Shabaab. Now, my comments are two. First, I would want to talk about the Constitution of Kenya. Up to now, we have veterinary services under health. And something else about dipping, and I don't know, abattoir, under county services. I don't know, up to now, what are we doing about it to be clear about our services per se. Number two, livestock in Kenya accounts for 40% of the gross GDP. Agriculture GDP. If I remember carefully, the SDG goals set a 10% funding to the agricultural sector. Now, I think one of the problems we have, even our own funding, the funding into the livestock sector, which veterinary services do fall under, is very low. And I would want to ask Maritim, Dr. Maritim, as an enabler, as somebody like Dr. Yamo, what are you doing about ensuring that whatever goes to the funds that go to the livestock sector, at least it's 10% agricultural sector and 40% in the livestock sector? Thank you.
No, we go one round of questions. I mean, how many more, please? Okay, him, and then I hope the panelists are listening. Maritim, I hope you're listing your questions. Okay.
One more to Dr. Maritim. My name is Dr. Dr. Makonnen, private vet in town. One of the ways I know that helps brand building is celebrating wins. If we get people doing a good job, if you get a vet who has, for example, reported a case, for example, a guy carrying chicken in that form of transport, and takes that bold step of going to prosecute and stuff like that, and you support, and then finally bring him in an event like this and celebrate, I think many more will want to come out because everyone wants to be appreciated. That's number one. Number two is, when we celebrate amongst ourselves, nobody else gets to know. How do we link with the rest of the public? Do we get, and I'm happy today at least we have Nation and Standard represented. How do we get this information, good information, going out there so that this brand of the good vet we've had everybody talk about is heard out there? We all know it's a noble profession. I'm very proud of being a vet. But out there, daktari wa ng'ombe, daktari wa samaki. In fact, you're called daktari ng'ombe. So I think, how do we build this brand nicely so that, we rise up there? That's my comment, Dr. Maritim. Thank you.
Okay, there were two more there.
Dr. Mambiri, I'm going to spare Dr. Maritim. Yamo, I've slipped you a piece of paper. In a nutshell, kindly tell the sitting of the presence of the National Livestock Policy and how it covers all that we have discussed here, in a nutshell.
And then one there. Okay, I'm feeling like that, and I need to give the lady because I'm a feminist. So let's try that, and then her.
I'm Dr. Katu. I work for the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock. Mine is I'm just curious about the anthropological study that was done. I just wanted to ask whether maybe the farmers' perceived cost of veterinary services, or in their attempts, to cost cut or cost-cutting measures, may have influenced the respondent in terms of the high majority of the 75% of the respondents actually requesting services either from a family friend and so on and so forth. So I just want to know whether maybe the farmers' perceived cost of veterinary services may have influenced this kind of distribution. Thank you.
Okay, so let's have the lady and then Maritim mostly to answer.
Hello, my name is Njoki Maina. I'm an intern at Vet Lab Nakuru. We have some very expensive equipment in the lab. And one of them that concerns me a lot is an equipment that can screen for pesticides and antimicrobials. But I've been in that lab for 48 weeks, and samples are brought in, but we do not have reagents. We don't have diluents. We don't have all that. For a government that says it's very much concerned with food safety, that is a big concern for me.
Okay, so Maritim. Beba mzigo wako.
Yeah, I think quickly, maybe Dr. Maina, because I'm going to start with that. You are very lucky to go to Nakuru to get that equipment in terms of, actually it was bought by a project which I was coordinating, Goals Map. And we realized that we need this equipment to be used. And I'm sad to learn that there is no reagents. Yet I think we have a lot of reagents here in Kabete. So I think your issue probably is an issue of the officer in charge not linking up with the source, and that one I'll take it up and see, because we have bought a lot of equipment specifically for the residue monitoring plan, and we deployed them to strategically, one in Mariakani, one in Nakuru. The only thing which actually, of course, to elaborate on that is the veterinary services, as somebody had said, we wait for people to deceive what we do. It is upon us to tell the people the capacity we have. Imagine that equipment going to West, yet it has been missing all this time. So I think that one is a key issue. Then my friend Makonnen, on appreciation, I agree with you that we really need to appreciate these people who are doing well. The Botswana people came to learn from us something some time back, 2-3 years ago. And we took them to dairy, we took them because we thought we are best in dairy. So on our way to Nakuru, to the farm of Chemushan or something, they saw how donkeys are treated in Limuru. And how people were carrying chicken upside down. And they actually closed their eyes all the way to Nakuru. You see, we are teaching them the best practice, but I think we are not the best. We may be the best in paper, but on practice, I think there is a big problem. It is something it's an effort we need to combine, all of us. We have been trained, we have the responsibility, and it takes an effort, somebody to take action to actually correct that kind of animal welfare issue. It's so embarrassing. The laws are there, but the enforcement is lacking because somebody has seen work in terms of money, as Yamo was saying, but has not seen it as a service. That's why it's called veterinary service. So I really encourage that, and I'll also pass on to our superiors on that issue. Panagichoi, on the funds, you know very well that money has come to the county. And I pick it from Dr. Wamore's approach, whereby even in the county, whenever you are submitting budget, you only submit vaccination budget. True or false? Which does not attract funding. So I'm not accusing you, but I've actually went through so many counties. How comes agriculture gets more funds sometimes, even in a livestock dominated counties? It's because of the way we package our information. Information is not enough, and most of our figures are actually scaring to governors. When they see you asking for 10 million, they say this guy must be mad. But we need to package our information which touches on these fabrics. And also, if possible, we do a lot of budget is an art. And you start budgeting by allocating activities. Don't start budgeting with money. And then you come down and say, what do we do with this money? You activity-based budget, and which you can actually justify. You can even face it out. I agree with you. The governors, especially the first group of governors which came, they were spending government money like petty cash. They didn't know there is an authority to incur expenditure. That's why there are so many of these audit queries and they cannot answer. But now the current system is changing, and I'm very sure you will be beneficiaries. But as you prepare to benefit, I'm telling you that we are very weak in terms of presenting our case in terms of budgeting. So let's look at that. My professor Tuet of physiology has said something about vaccination, and it still goes back to the county government. The director may not have a direct role on how vaccination can be, but we have capacity to build the counties that it is effortless to one county to do a good job and the other surrounding him does nothing. That's why we have a problem. And I think some of them are now buying in the idea that, in fact, at one point they wanted to return a control of notifiable diseases back to national because it was becoming a problem. And I think with more efforts, they will see some sense in it and prioritize the control of diseases. I saw the issue of the law enforcement from my colleague from the university, that we are weak in terms of giving officers to the people to address these emerging issues like aquaculture, apiculture, and all those. You see, we trained him. Immediately he got the certificate, he went to the university. So, that is another issue. Okay, so we want to, even if the division is to be created, we may not have the people to man it. But I know Gejo is still there, but you know it's in county. So it is an issue which is supposed to be addressed. There is a division which is handling what the issues you are talking about, but it's not as specific as you are saying. And we are really, it is a need, given the current issues we are facing. We need to have aquaculture under us. Currently, DVS is represented by the university, Professor Mbuvia, at the OIE. So we would have expected Kijoi to be taking up that office, but I think it is an issue which we continue advocating in the university, in the department. So on this,
as we wrap up,
in Nairobi, because that is the epicenter of issues, is that I think capacity building in terms of addressing some of these challenges, especially Nairobi. Nairobi is the one which has got so many issues regarding food safety. And actually it requires capacity building. I don't know whether you are in the program which rabies eradication currently. I'm being told time is up, but I just want to tell you that we have enough vaccines currently. What I think you need to do is to come up with program, justifiable program, and also there was an animal welfare team which was doing something on rabies in dog control, and I think it was done in Nairobi. I think Kangete is one of us. He has offered a hand to enhance our issues. I think that is all. Thank you.
All right.
The livestock bill was Yamo, but it is already at the cabinet, so we hope it will.
Yamo is going to update, and Yamo is I will personally hold Yamo accountable with that in the media. I will put him on the spot for that. But just before we wrap up, I would like to give the panelists each a minute to just I'm sorry for our colleagues. Looks like the vets here were coming for Maritim's head. Next time we're just going to give him a panel for his own, you know? Yeah, so please just tell us a minute, what would you think would take away from this conversation in relation to what you do to move us forward as vets? I'm a quack as vets.
Okay, I think one really interesting thing that's fallen out of this discussion is a little bit of personal responsibility for each of us as vets, for taking the training that we've got. And, you know, all of us here have trained at different stages, so that the curriculum is always evolving. But we're all here within a CPD event. We're all aware of emerging issues, aware of the need to think in a multidisciplinary fashion, and we can all be proud of our profession and what we can bring. So we need structural changes, and there needs to be an infrastructure that enables vets to provide the service, to enact the laws that are there and to enforce them. But we all need to take some personal responsibility in championing the profession, talking with our farmers, making them aware of our services, talking to policymakers, and making sure that our voice is heard, and each of us can be involved in doing that.
Yeah, we're going to skip Dr. Maritim. We are feeling sorry for him. And then we move on.
I think mine would be just to say that even as we change laws and we look at the environment around us, it's for us to then take cognizance of some of these things. My short to answering the livestock policy thing, why are we talking about a livestock policy when the Constitution is very clear? We needed a veterinary policy. If you look at Schedule 4, I cannot see a livestock policy, but I still hear people driving a livestock policy. So we are not even obeying the very structure, the Constitution that we are given. Just to help Gishoi, how many of us actually engage counties? How many of us go for the budgeting process requires that we participate in that budget. How many of us have actually been in those budgeting cycles? Yeah. The reason why we don't get money is because nobody goes to talk for us. And if you are not missing, if you are missing and agriculture is there, 75% of that budget then goes to agriculture. I can challenge all of us here, and I know it as a fact that 90% of us don't even know when those budgeting stakeholder meetings are held, because they are put in the middle of the newspapers and we don't read newspapers. So let's take some personal responsibility. Before we come onto the table and ask for more resources, let's first go and ask for that resources at the county level, and then we can drive some of these processes going forward. In the matter of strychnine, I think what we need to accept as the veterinary profession, we cannot run rabies and dog population control the way it was done 50, 60 years ago. The world has moved. There's no strychnine globally. There's no strychnine. So let's forget strychnine and say, what do we need to do to manage dog population? We have a whole document called the National Strategy for Elimination of Rabies by 2030 in this country. Why are we not implementing it?
All right.
So I'll use my time to answer the question that was posed to me. So in our studies across countries, we find that cost is always the biggest concern when it comes to veterinary services. And even when a farmer's in a position where they're getting advice from government services that are supposed to be either free or low cost, there's often a cost associated with it. So, for example, in many of the countries, especially in places where the economy is poor, say for Zimbabwe, farmers are having to pay, and even here, but farmers are having to pay fuel costs, right, for the vet to come. So even though the advice is free, getting the person to provide you that advice is not free. So it's always a consideration for the farmers. And so for that to change, that's a perception. And for that to change, the realities on the ground have to change, right? And so, for example, when we need to bring in the media to say, you know, these government services, here are the costs associated with it, or it's free, right? If we want to tell the farmers that, we have to make sure it's true, right? And for that to happen, there needs to be, of course, more resources devoted towards the services of getting out to these farmers, so their perceptions can actually meet the realities that they face. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, my turn now. I will keep it 1 minute, I promise. Okay. First of all, I heard two things that people have said that I liked a lot. A gentleman said something about we, as scientists, we have a mission to protect our peers. As vets, as medical doctors and so on, it's the same. Second of all, the lady talking about prevention. Okay, when you know something before it can happen and you can anticipate, you can actually protect people a lot. Unfortunately, it does remind me of a sad example, but maybe I share with you, you will understand better what we do. Okay, that lady, she was pregnant and she was just drinking fresh milk. Unfortunately, the milk was contaminated with Listeria monocytogenes, which led to the death of the unborn child, right? My question would be, who is accountable for this one? Would you blame the mom because she wasn't boiling the milk? Would you blame the industrial because they've been releasing the product on the market? Or would you blame the vet because the diagnostics wasn't made at the farm level, or the farmer for not good practicing? So my point being, food safety is a common matter. It's not. There is no need to point finger. I'm not doing that, and I don't want to blame neither the mother or anyone about that. But as scientists, we have a responsibility because we do have the knowledge, so we can share the knowledge to protect consumers at a vet level, industrial level, at any step. And my job is actually okay to share that knowledge, that experience, and also to make people accept that it's true, as was mentioned before. You invest in some equipment to make testing and so on, but at the end of the day, you cannot put a price on life. So sometimes it's an investment at the beginning, and we are also here to support that. But if your purpose is actually to protect the consumers and your peers, it's not a step you can escape from. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you so much. A round of applause for our panelists. Thank you so much for your time and for your participation. You have been the most activated audience. And I hope this conversation can go on here, online, offline. And as, my colleague there from Standard Media Group has said, the media is always open, and now we are open to science, journalism. The nation has a whole department for that, where I'm head of content. So you are welcome. We welcome conversations, and sometimes vets just run away, you know. Sometimes you even get tired of calling Dr. Yamo, because when you call, write an email, oh my God, I need approvals, DVS. These are very trained people. I don't know why there's always that gag on technical people to talk about something that they have been living and they have been trained forever. If that, I don't know where it came from, MBA people trying to gag what the technical people are going to say. If that could be lessened a little bit, knowledge has always been a source of empowerment. All right? I think this is where I'm done. I'll hand over to the MC. Thank you so much.
So the council chair wants us to kuchota. Thank you, Verah. I think most of us have seen Verah's articles on the Daily Nation, mostly on health, if I'm not wrong. They're normally well researched. What I normally complain about our media is they normally report without facts, but I think hers are better. So you'll see a science article on another, not yours, but quoting people verbatim without, going out to do research. And so when a scientist reads that article, they're very disappointed. But hers are well researched. Thank you so much for accepting to moderate this event. We will give you an applause at the end. Then for our panelists, I must admit I don't know most of you. It's the first time we're meeting, other than the council chair, who is my mentor too, and is at World Animal Protection. But we really thank you for accepting this chance. I know you're busy people. And we are really sorry that most questions went to Dr. Maritim. I think next time we'll have to pull Dr. Maritim out and force you guys to ask the other panelist questions. But I do not think it's about their lack of interest in your areas of expertise. But I think it's more about, issues people have with the Directorate of Veterinary Services, if I'm not wrong. So it's good they got this forum to question that. Now, that is the end of our panel discussion. We will have more of this. We'll try and have more of this.